Lesson 4 is going to be remaking the string, the cable, the control cable. So this one has right here, it just goes between the two. So if you look over here, this is the one end where it goes around here. Now when we come down to the other end, it goes over the top and around and back onto this pin down here. So we want to make sure we put it back on the same way. So as you're doing this, one good thing, if you're not sure what you're doing, go ahead and take a picture with your camera. So let's go ahead and remove this. Now you look at it, you notice this end, they served it, but this end, they didn't. Yeah, why would they do one end and not the other? But that's what you get with the cheaper ones. So let's go on the jig and we're going to set it up. Now the control cable, I wrote down the numbers for it, is 37.5 inches long. That's going to be our control cable. So 37.5. So now we're going to loosen this up, find 37.5. Needs a little bit of lubricant in here. It's old. All right, 37.5. I'm trying to loosen this up just a little bit more here. Okay, there's 37.5. Now, making this one is almost identical to making the other string, except the only difference is we don't serve anything in the middle, just the two ends. Now, we need to know this one here is the bottom limb, and this one's the top, so it's going to have to get served a little bit further. So we'll just keep this down here. All right, we're going to start with using the same colors we did on the string. We had 8 strands of the copper and 10 strands of the tan. So let's start off with, we're going to wrap this around here. This kind of holds it nice and tight. We're going to run them down here, so we're going to do 8 strands. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, we're going to do 10 strands of this color. And first thing I'm going to do is we're going to tie off the 2. So if you can zoom in here, what I'm doing, I'm going to fold both of them back. And now I'm going to take one of them like I'm tying a shoe. So just an overhand knot on here. Now I'm going to take and make just a little loop and back through here. Pull that tight. Now if you notice, that still wants to slip a little bit. So now I need to tie this knot here. I'll tie that one. And now that's nice and tight. It's got a little bit of slip in it. So I just need to go through and I'll tie it on the other side. There. Now, if it's still slipping, there we go. Now, I'm going to trim this down a little bit. Now, I need to go 10 strands of this color. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now this one, fold them back, and then just run this up underneath here through that little loop. First one, you're just going to try and tie it down here someplace. And wrap the other one through and tie it. Now if you notice, that knot will still slip. So what I want to do is I want to pull these two so that knot is fairly close to the other one and there's not a lot of slack in there. Pull them in nice and tight. Now if I take and make another knot here, another knot here, now that's going to stay fairly tight, and if I have a little problem with them slipping, I can always just tie another one. What I'll do is I'll cross it over. There we go. Now, notice how loose this is. What we can do is on either end, we can turn this, and now as we run these back and forth, that will stretch them out. So you can turn both of them if we need to, but we want to get this so it's nice and loose. Is out of it. It's all the same consistency now. Notice how they're the same, but this is loose. So when we get ready to twist it, it's going to take a lot of those out. Now let's go ahead and tie the loop like we've done several other times. So let's get this to roll down here. Take a little pressure off so I get it to roll. Now, if you kind of hold the string as you're turning it, it'll kind of stay where it's at. Now, this is the bottom one. This is the one that's served. So I'm going to need a knot down here, but I want to make it a little bit bigger so I can get it off of my jig here. It don't need to be really big. So I'm going to need probably an inch. There'll be 2 of them here long, but I want to go a little bit longer so I have plenty of room. So what I'll do is I'm going to start the first knot and serve over the top of this here. So now we're going to take our end loop material, which we don't need into the halo, just the 3D. So also what we're going to do on here is just this one. So now we're going to take this time, tie the knot where it starts right next to the other knot. Now to kind of lock that in nice and tight. So now I'm going to wrap this around, pull the tag end in. You can do this a couple times. You want to lock it in. It doesn't need to be too many times. And I go so far, and then I can go ahead and pull this out. Don't need it in here anymore. In fact, you can even just cut it off because it doesn't need to be there anymore. All right, if we look at our loop, wrong one. So now this would be to here, and we're just about there. So I want to make sure I go a little extra length because it doesn't hurt to go longer than what you need, as long as you don't go crazy with it. So now we wrap that around. So once we wrap this around, it's going to be Let's go a little bit more because we're going to wrap around this post. So you can always take a look at it like this, roll it around, and that's where we're at. We're just a little bit past. So let's go ahead and tie this off now. And like before, as we wrap this on, this wraps off. And I normally just use my jig for pulling on it just because it's there, it's handy, it's quick. Okay, while we're at it, let's go ahead and burn the ends. And now when we get ready to do this, we can stop this one right here and serve that in there because we'll be serving fairly close to the end. So now, I'm going to save me a little time here. Let's go ahead and fasten these together so they don't move. We're going to turn this end. Get this light up here a little bit higher. Oh, it didn't stay. All right, it didn't stay. So let's go down here. That like that. And now I can twist it now, or I can twist it later. So one of the problems you run into is if you're twisting it later, is as you're wrapping this, sometimes you can twist these together. So now I can take, and right about here is the center. Go ahead and mark it. And now then I can look at this one here. How long did I make this one? And I want to make that one a little bit longer so I have a little more room. And if you look at this one, I made it, if you look at the cap, you know, from here, yeah, all the way down. I want to make it at least this long. So I'm going to go probably here. So that'd be about an inch. And that's, I'm going to start like right about here. Serve this one a little bit more. Now remember, right, this is the one that was not served on the end loop. So we're going to add a little bit better quality to it. Okay, we're at 37.5, and see how loose that string is now? So what I'm going to do is pull this off. Move this around. So now, when I get ready to do my twisting process, I want to make sure this stays right here where I want it. Just like was showed in lesson 3 on twisting them. We're going to go through here and separate out the colors. Now, kind of determine whether you have enough twist in here is how tight this is. I want to have it a little bit tighter, so I'm going to twist a couple more times. There, that's pretty tight. Now, all I need to do now is start serving the ends of them. And this one down here is a short serving. It only needs to come down to here. So what I'll do is I'll put a little mark on here. That's where that one needs to go to. Now then we'll come down to the other end. Now we're going to see where this one needs to come to. It needs to come to right about here. So I'll also put a mark here so I know where to serve it down to. So now I have my marks. Just going to do the short one first. Doesn't matter which one you do first. Now if you look at this, you'll see there's quite a bit more thickness here. So they have plenty of thickness we can use around there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do this a little bit different. There's a little different way you can do this. I'm going to put this knot on here, and I'm going to start pulling this knot, and I'm actually going to serve this direction. That's something you can do when you have to put a lot of pressure on the corners. You'll have to take a look at your cams to see if you can do this on any of the other spots on the end loops. Now, that does make this a little bit stronger because you have a couple strands here. You can end up with them breaking on you. I'm going to go ahead and cut this end off. Now we'll come down and do the other end. Now we've got the cable, the control cable made, and we have our pressure on here. Quite a bit of pressure on it. So now, remember, this is the top one because it's longer one, and this is the lower one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run this back in here like we did before. So let's go ahead and switch positions on the camera. Now we're going to put this back on. So we're going to run this down and up and around here. Remember, we had trouble with that staying on there because it wasn't served in there. Now we're going to run this down, and it's going to come, come on the right side over here, and then going to come down through here. And now remember, this one went over the top and around. So we're going to come up here and put this on here. This wraps around. And now to put pressure on it, remember we've got to pull up on our string because it come off the cam. Make sure we have all that in. Now we have our pressure on here. And now we are going to put this back in here. These back up on there where they're supposed to be. And that is our control cable installed. Now we have our control cable done. Our Y cable is next. This is the one that we're going to have to tie this little loop right here. It's going to be pretty close. One of the things, say people ask, is it normal for it to separate? Well, when you look at how much bend this has to go around right here, that's a sharp bend, and most all your bows are going to have a little separation where it bends that sharp. So don't worry about it. If you'll have to watch it, because what'll happen is the strands will start breaking. At that case, then you just need to reserve this end piece. So that's it for this lesson. Next lesson, we will be making the Y cable. And so stay tuned for that. We're going to see how to do that. We got a couple different options on that. I'll explain that when we get into that lesson. So once again, make sure you watch lesson 1, which is picking out our colors. Lesson 2 is making the string. Lesson 3 was making or installing the string. Lesson 4, we covered making the cable and installing the cable back on it. So remember, watch lesson 5, which is going to be making our Y cable.